Gary, question for you. What's something that surprises almost every blended family we meet?
What's something that surprises almost every blended family we meet? Most financial plans aren't wrong. What happens is they are built for a completely different family than the one sitting across the table from us. Most plans assume one marriage, the same children the whole way through, and a simple shared idea of where everything eventually fits. Now, if that's your family, that assumption works beautifully. If you're remarried, have stepchildren, or children from a previous relationship, that assumption might already be quietly undermining your life. And here's the part that catches people off guard. The plan can look completely fine on paper for years. It's not until the day your family needs it that you find out whether it was really built for you.
Mm. That's what we want to unpack today. Why blended families specifically run into this, what your life and the lives of those you love look like when it goes sideways. And we'll give you a way to consider looking at it. Let's begin with the traditional picture. What assumptions are made about a family in a standard financial plan?
What does the standard financial plan assume about a family? It's assuming a pretty simple, straightforward structure. One marriage from beginning to end of one or both partners' lives. The same set of children the entire way through. Shared goals between the spouses about where the money goes and who it's for. And a fairly straightforward inheritance. When both parents are gone, everything flows down to the kids. And everybody involved already agrees on what that looks like. When that's the situation, the plan may work. The natural order of things tends to sort itself out. You don't have to force anything because there's no tension to resolve. And for a long time, that assumption held for the majority of American families in that the tools, the templates, even a lot of advisor tools are built around the traditional shape.
That's not the picture for a lot of the families we sit down with.
No, it isn't. Why don't you paint that picture for us? What does that added complexity look like inside a blended family?
What does the added complexity look like inside a blended family? You might have a second marriage, adult children from a first marriage, alongside minor children with the current marriage. You may have an ex spouse still named somewhere in old paperwork because life got complicated and the seemingly more immediate, more pressing concerns were being tended to, and nobody went back and updated it. You may have assets that were separate before the marriage. A house one spouse owned outright, an account that was always theirs alone, sitting right alongside assets the couple built together. Every person in that picture may have a slightly different priority. The spouse wants to make sure their partner is taken care of. The other spouse wants to be sure their children would never be put in a position of inheritance going to another woman and her children should a premature death or even another divorce occur. The adult children from the first marriage want to know they haven't been forgotten. The younger children need a long-term structure, not just an inheritance. None of that is unusual. It's the common situation for a huge number of the households we sit down with every week.
It is a more complex picture than a lot of financial plans were originally designed around, which means the plan doesn't fail because the family did anything wrong. It fails because it was never built to hold that much complexity in the first place.
Will you walk us through what this looks like in practice? Not a specific family, whether I want folks to recognize the pattern that we see.
What does that look like in practice? Here's a pattern we see often in one form or another. Someone gets remarried. At some point, they sit down and update their will. Maybe an attorney helps them do it properly, and the will reflects the new family, the new intentions, everything looks current. Then, what often doesn't get touched in that same process? Their IRA may still list a beneficiary from years earlier, sometimes a former spouse, sometimes just an outdated name that was never revisited. Their investment accounts might have an entirely different designation on file from a different point and time in their life. If there's a trust involved, the trust language might say something different still. Each one of those documents sitting by itself looks completely fine, And that's what makes this so easy to miss. The problem only becomes visible when you lay all of them side by side and consider how all those pieces compare with one another and how all those pieces fit together or not. Here's the part that catches people off guard. Beneficiary designations typically override what a will says. It doesn't matter how clearly the will spells out someone's intentions. If the IRA, the 401k, or the life insurance policy has a different name on the beneficiary line, that designation is usually what controls where the money goes. This isn't a story about one specific couple. It's a pattern we see across blended families again and again. Different documents created at different times in someone's life, often by different professionals, and never compared against each other as a complete picture.
If we had to boil it down, what's the problem here?
What's the problem here? It's not that anyone made a malicious mistake. Nobody sat down and deliberately created a conflict. The problem is that nobody looked at the full picture, all at once, side by side. It's the coordination across all of them over time that gets missed. And that's really the heart of what we think blended family planning has to solve for.
Listen, if you're watching this and thinking, I really don't know if all of our documents agree with each other. Heck, I don't even know what is written in the documents will play out in real life. The different life events. Well, that is the kind of conversation we have every day in our financial practice. As a blended family ourselves, we personally live this too. It is not about assuming something is broken. It's about looking at the full picture.
If that's something you've been meaning to check on, there's a link in the description to reach out to us.